All right, we are live. Hello, Facebook friends and virtual world. Happy Friday. I hope everyone had a good week. And thank you all so much for tuning in with us today. I'm Chelsea with Rock Recovery Fitness, and I have my other Rock Recovery Fitness co-host, Lisa Nichols, with us today. And we also have some special guests with us today. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. And we're really here today to not only continue our recovery talks, but to really broaden some of the subjects that we've been talking about. And as we're about to head right into September, which I can't believe it's September already somehow, we know that next month is National Recovery Month, as well as Suicide Prevention Month as well. So this is a really great opportunity for us as an organization, as well as other organizations, to come together and really be a support for our community, all year round too, of course, but this is an extra special time where we get to talk more, educate people more, and really just have some of those difficult conversations. And I've got some wonderful guests on with us today that are going to help us lead that discussion, a little bit about mind, body, and spirit, and talking about suicide awareness today as well. So I would just really briefly like to introduce our special panelists we have today. We have Christina Mossgraber with us, who is the Director of Education and Community Outreach for NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We have Karen Ferner with us today, who is an experienced registered yoga teacher and has dedicated her time for the past year instructing Y12SR for us at Rock Recovery out in the Southern Tier. And we also have Jennifer Haggerty with us today, who is the Suicide Prevention Coordinator at the Bath VA, as well as being a licensed clinical social worker. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
For having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we kind of jump into things, I'm going to turn it over to my lovely co-host to kind of lead us into our discussion today and help kind of educate us about where we're going to be kind of moving into today. So I will turn it over.
Yeah, thanks, Chelsea. And thank you so much for participating, all of you. So mind, body, and spirit, you might be wondering what these three organizations have in common. And that's really our goal today, is to look at suicide education and prevention from a different angle. Maybe you don't always think yoga and suicide prevention, but our goal today is to talk about the way these different parts of being human come together for a full program. It's not just treating, it's preventing and learning more about ourselves. So with that, I'm going to let the professionals take over and tell us more.
Well, I can start by saying yoga means unite. So we unite the mind, body, and spirit in our practice through meditation, breathing, and our physical poses. So that's something that we do in yoga practice.
Christina, I don't want to talk over you.
I know it's always...
You want me to go first?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
It's always so tough online because we don't know who's going on.
I know. You don't want to interrupt each other, but just thank you for having me. It's really a pleasure to be able to talk with you guys and with your listeners. Here at the VA, we do a lot of research, and we do a lot of interviews and discussions with people who've struggled with thoughts of suicide, and working with people who've had attempts at suicide. And one of the things that we learn from people is that they didn't actually want to die. They just wanted the pain that they were feeling to stop. And I think that that's such a strong statement and such a catalyst for providers and for family and friends and anyone really, or someone going through it, because what do we do to identify what that pain is, right? If we can then start to focus our conversation and our goal on pain, on the pain that person's feeling, then we can start to narrow down what type of interventions would work, what type of treatments would work. Pain is such a broad term, right? It could be physical pain. It could be emotional pain. It could be pain from anxiety or depression or trauma or a relapse. It could be so many things. So I feel like that's such a starting point for a discussion about suicide prevention, because things like yoga and mental health or Tai Chi or meditation, all of those things can address various levels of pain. And when people are faced with personal or collective distressing events, even like this pandemic, we can find that people are and can be very resilient and can effectively cope if they engage in strategies aimed at decreasing the stress and increasing a sense of safety and control. So that's a way we can be preventative, is to help people figure out what that pain is and how to help address it through all of these various means.
Jen, you bring up a really good point too of, it's about when we engage in these different activities or different things that are benefiting, all of our mind, body, and spirit. It's one thing to kind of sit with it, and we know sometimes that pain can grow, but then being able to take it a step further and take action and engage in the things that can help us. So those are really good points.
And research has shown that 90% of people who struggle with suicidal thoughts can fully recover with proper treatment. So having that broad base of what treatment is available, what is out there, what can we bring? It's not always just about medication. It's not always just about psychotherapy. I mean, you can branch out to other whole health options. VA has a ton of whole health options too, where we really try to just look at the person and what their needs are and let them guide their care if they're not interested in medication or psychotherapy.
Yeah, so Christina, I want to hear from you. But before I do, Jen, that whole health idea, I like to envision it in the recovery realm, but this applies to recovery from everything, as the picture of a wheel, like a bicycle wheel. And there's the hub, and that's the human. And all of the spokes have to work together to get that wheel rolling. And if one spoke breaks, it'll roll for a little while, but then it's going to get bent and janky, and it's going to be a lot more difficult. So using that visual, Christina, can you tell us about one of the spokes in that process?
Yeah, so I just, also want to thank you so much for having us on here. It's really exciting when we can collaborate and work together and talk about, how we're all part of, we're all spokes in the wheel of helping people. And I really appreciate this conversation professionally and personally, because just to dovetail on a couple things that Jennifer, you said, as an attempt survivor myself, I didn't want to die. I wanted the pain to end. So just want to really, reiterate that point from that lens. And I think, Lisa, to your point about the spokes, I think one of the main spokes is connection. We found, especially during this pandemic, that people started to struggle more when they weren't connected. And that's when, the thoughts of hopelessness and of despair were starting to come in. And so that's a lot of what NAMI does, is connect people. And so we started doing meditation groups, and we started doing yoga, and we started doing all kinds of things that we didn't do before, but we were finding more and more people were coming because they needed that connection to stay grounded and to stay well and to keep their mental health where they wanted to be. And so to me, a lot of suicide prevention is long before it gets to the point where somebody does want to take their life. It's about making sure we have all these spokes in place and all these wraparound supports that are more than, Jennifer, to your point, more than just medication and clinical treatment. So groups and peer connection and yoga and whatever makes a person feel better outside of, to kind of complement, I guess, the clinical setting. So for me, I guess if I really wanted to focus on a spoke, it would be connection, a human connection, however it looks right now in this moment.
Yeah, so Karen, I know you won't toot your own horn about this, but you've been working with Recovery as a volunteer for quite a while, and were hired recently, and you go into the community, you go into treatment centers, you do it free, all of the time. You did it online, even though you hated the internet. You're such a gift to our program. But can you tell us about how yoga provides pain relief and connection?
Yeah, so I recognize when we do our practice that even people that are coming in brand new and they don't know anything about it, and even if they just sit and listen, just the energy, the music, the talking, they will benefit from it. And I will say that to anybody. If you just want to sit and listen, that is so cool with me, because I know in the end they're going to feel okay. They're going to feel better. They're going to feel good. But I get a lot of comments from people that they just feel better, they sleep better, they come back, which is huge. And it is a thing. It is a thing where we start out and we talk about just letting go of whatever they're thinking of in that day and just being present. And I think that that's a struggle sometimes for people to be present and just go inward. But with practice, they begin to like it, and they can find out more about themselves through a yoga practice. The physical poses are important as well. As we're being present, we're only thinking about what we're doing, and being present is really important because that helps us when we're off the mat. Speaking with someone eye to eye, listening skills, and tasks, completing tasks. So a lot of the stuff that we do on the mat benefits us off the mat. So I do enjoy, I love teaching and seeing people get something out of it. It means a lot to me.
That's awesome. And I think one of the things that I always remember that always stands out from the times that I've done Y12SR, so that's Yoga 12-Step Recovery for people that haven't heard of that yet. One of the things that the instructors always say is the issues live in our tissues. And I think because it's fun and catchy, it probably stands out in my mind a little better. But, and that's just so true. It kind of touches back to Jennifer's point early on of, that pain can manifest itself in so many ways, physically in somebody's body, mentally, emotionally. And it's just so, interesting how that's really tied in with that. And even in my own experience, having, been able to do Y12SR, different yogas, like you said, Karen, like even if people are just sitting and listening, like you just feel better afterwards, you feel a little lighter. So I love that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to play off, Karen, of what you had said about being present and in the moment, I think that too many times we wake up and we go into autopilot mode. We go into, this is what has to get done today and I have to hurry up, or maybe I woke up a little bit late and I'm short on time to get ready to get to work. Or if you're teleworking like I did for some time, you end up starting work in your pajamas. With not having your hair done, and I have a video call and now I have to quick fix my hair before everybody sees me, but to just even start your day off with intention of taking a deep breath and being present and taking a deep breath before you have to start all the craziness and the busyness. Things start to pile up, if you don't do that. So if you have any physical pain, there's that, and then emotional pain, then that piles on top. And it makes it difficult to focus on what you need to do throughout the day if you're struggling with all of these different pains. And just taking a moment in the morning to breathe and relax and be present in that moment can help you kind of sort that out to make it through your day. When I was going through chemotherapy treatment, took a gentle yoga class, and it was amazing to me how stressed I really was. I didn't know when they started talking about releasing the tension in your face, mm-hmm. in your jaw, and in your forehead, and I didn't realize how tight I really was and how stressed I really was until I had to force myself to relax every part of my body. And when I was able to do that, a lot of my pain had decreased. because there's a lot of pain associated with chemotherapy, and how much clearer I was able to think and how much more relaxed I felt. So that helped me kind of process through the rest of the things I had going on. So it was a wonderful experience.
Isn't it amazing to notice like how oftentimes, and most of the time we don't notice it, but when we're mindful about it, like how tightly our faces can be scrunched sometimes, or how much our shoulders are shrugged up to our ears without having any awareness that we're doing. I do it all day long still, and I'm like trying to be mindful of, just breathing and relaxing. And there is, Jen, that's such a great point. There is such a value in just being mindful of those things and just, giving our bodies a break, because we put so much stress on our bodies, whether it's working or working out, or even some of the things that are, not good for our bodies. We know, substances and, bad food sometimes, or, other chemicals we put into our body could just cause so much harm. And so it's just amazing to see that there really are so many ways that we can all do better with taking care of our bodies in a better way, in a healthier way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally I agree with everything that you guys are saying, and same thing about the intention and starting the day with intention. And something that I encourage people to do too, especially if you're struggling, is really try to find, when you're in that intention, find things you're grateful for. Like look for the gratitude, look for the joy. And I was leading a group yesterday, and somebody said, "Well, there's absolutely no joy right now. The world is terrible, and this and that and the other thing." And I said, "There's nothing, I was like, is there anything that brings you joy?" And she's like, "Well, yeah, my puppy." And I said, "Right, cool." So like just taking that moment, because the world does feel heavy, right? I mean, right now, and just, again, we get, Jennifer, like you said, we get into our routine and we get going, and before you know it, it's 7 p.m. and it's like, what was I grateful for today? Or what did I have intention of today? And so kind of starting your day with that. And I think just for me too, and it is something I use myself, encourage people, and it really does help my spirit, is taking a break when you need to, taking a break to say, I just need to take a break and breathe, or Chelsea, maybe just even like, let your shoulders go and like, let that tension go, or find something that brings you joy or happiness, and just try to kind of turn the mind, if you will. And that's something, it can sound easier said than done, but it really has a huge impact when you can just stop and have some intention, and then find some joy and some purpose, and remind yourself that it's still there, and that you're enough, and you're doing the best you can with what you have. That can be really, really helpful in the moment.
I love all of the specific strategies. This is really valuable. I'm like taking mental notes for later. But I also remember an older version of myself who heard similar things. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great, but it's not for me. So I'm wondering if anyone can speak to that audience, maybe through the pathway of science, or, Jen, you mentioned the research the VA does. So, if I'm someone who's like, yeah, I just can't do that touchy-feely stuff. What are some chemical processes within the body that we could talk about?
Well, I mean, there's a yoga lady, her name's Christine Weber, who she's like very sciencey, and she talks about how a slow, mindful yoga is helpful to our nervous system. Our nervous system really likes a slow, gentle, moving yoga. And she's got, I think, Chelsea, I gave you her website, but she has a lot of information on how that all works out. But yeah, I mean, there is a science behind it. Yes, subtleyoga.com. Yep. And so I signed up to take her training, but of course with COVID, it's on hold, but I study some of her stuff, and I incorporate some of her stuff in my teaching. And I teach slow, mindful yoga, but it's very slow. But it does work with the nervous system, so that we're teaching our nervous system to slow down, so that, again, off the mat, we can deal with circumstances coming at us in a different way.
Yeah, I think my audio cut out a tiny bit when Lisa was talking, so I may have missed some of what she had said, but I think I'm gathering from what Karen said what she was looking for. And there is a science behind it, right? I mean, when you breathe, when you take more deep breaths and more intentional breaths, it increases the oxygen in your brain and in your body and allows you to be able to think things through more clearly. I mean, we all know stress is very dangerous for people. People who have high amounts of stress in their life die sooner from medical illnesses, from various medical things. I see it all the time. Stress kills, right? And it does. So it's so important to be able to find techniques and practices in our lives that help us slow down and de-stress ourselves. And even looking into just our thought process, right? I mean, they have cognitive behavioral therapy, and the breakdown of that really is, you have to think about your behaviors. And if you're always thinking negatively, then you're going to struggle with finding those positives. Even myself, I have to be reminded of that sometimes. And I wanted Lisa to talk a little bit more about that because she's always reminded me, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't talk so negatively. I had to quit smoking when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I try to tell myself, not that I'm a smoker who's trying to quit, but that I'm a non-smoker who doesn't want to smoke, right? Just being able to implement that every day, it really does make a difference. Because now I find instead of sitting here saying, man, I really want a cigarette, now I sit and I say, I'm not a smoker. You don't want to, I'm not a smoker, and that just, it's actually leads to less stress to say that to myself in more of a positive way than a negative way. And it applies with other things too, fitness, because fitness is hard, right? I struggle with fitness. But to be nicer, like not be so mean and nasty and negative to myself, because it doesn't lead to any positivity or any progress.
I love that.
Mhm.
Me too. A quick strategy, just because you called me out. I happened to be doing a guided meditation this morning, and it was a visualization exercise, so mind. And the woman doing it said, imagine yourself walking into a room and seeing yourself seated in the middle in a chair. And all of the walls are chalkboards. And on those chalkboards is written every mean thing you have said and say about yourself. And what you've done is you've found your inner bully. And I want you to give her a hug, take her by the hand, and erase all of those words together and start over. Full disclosure, I was like, this guided meditation is weird, and stopped it. But it's been sticking with me all day. And now that you brought that up, I feel like that's a reminder from the universe that maybe I need to unpause it and give it another chance. But Christina, I know you have another meeting and valuable things to say, so I want to swing it back to you.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. I really, can resonate with the, being more gentle with yourself. And that's something that I work on every day. And another tip that, I really, it's cute that, you said it's weird, Lisa, because if you told me maybe a year ago that I would really be into guided meditation, I'd be like, no way, I can't do that. My brain goes too fast. And I love it now. But part of it too is finding the ones that work for you. And just like anything with mind, body, and spirit, don't give up, looking for what works for you, because what works for somebody else, even like your best friend or your sibling, might not work for you. So don't compare yourself to other people, and be gentle on yourself, especially in this moment in time. We are all navigating this really uncertain, really scary, really tumultuous world. And I've had to say to myself so many times when that inner bully starts talking, you would never say that to somebody else. Why do you say that to yourself? So that's just if I could leave any quick tip of being more gentle on yourself, is just think about the fact that you would never say the things. I mean, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't, but I know the things that I say to myself, I would never say to somebody else. So I stop and I'm like, okay, why am I saying that to myself? And a lot of times it's because of my anxiety, and I'm a person who likes to get to the root of things and trace them back. But just again, being intentional and pausing and saying, I need to be more gentle on myself. Why am I doing this to myself? I wouldn't do this to somebody else. And just using those behavioral skills. I'm a big CBT and DBT fan. So, I'm always pulling out, I'm like a Marsha Linehan fangirl for DBT. I'm always pulling out DBT skills and stuff like that. So, but just finding what works for you and being more gentle on yourself. And it's amazing how that helps your spirit is when you can really just let yourself love yourself more and be more gentle.
It's really great, Christina. I'm also a big nerd out on DBT. I went through the course a while back, and truly it was really profound just to hear how not only how simple these coping skills were, they were just something that had never been introduced into my life. And now having gone through that, it's nice to pull those back out, and because so much of that is really mindfulness and paying attention. It's so easy for us to just sweep everything under the rug or ignore it or pretend our feelings don't exist. Because as humans in general, not just people who struggle with substance use or mental health, but as humans in general, Brene Brown talks about it, but we all want to numb out and take the edge off of something, right? We don't like to feel those feelings. And so the better we can practice that mindfulness, and just be more aware of our feelings and realize sometimes that those feelings they're not always facts. They don't always have to run my view of the world. And one of those skills that I love, it's actually just reading last night, is about surfing the emotion waves, right? So recognizing that our emotions kind of wave up and down and they ebb and flow. And so when I can ride those waves and pay attention to those emotions, like I can also have that awareness, like, all right, like I'm going to ride this out, like it's going to change and it's going to ebb and flow again. And so I love that you mentioned that. And, I'm just curious too, from my own questions, but, when we talk about a lot of that pain and trauma that, people really suffer with and struggle with, like, what does that do to someone's body and their mind if we don't reach out and help take care of it? Like, what are those effects that can have on somebody? I mean, we hear stories and things that happen to people, but what are some of those things that can happen?
I'll speak from experience and then I'll pass it to Jen because I know she has great research to back this up. I am a trauma survivor from a very young age. I suffered a violent trauma when I was 5, and it didn't occur to me until I was 17, suppressed memories. But up until that point, it manifested itself physically in severe GI issues. So stomach aches all of the time, depression, headaches. And I blamed those symptoms on multiple different things, like medicine that I was on, things that I was eating. And yes, those did have an impact. But after time in therapy, CBT was my favorite. So not behavioral therapy, but the cognitive behavioral therapy, not the dialectal. I came to realize first that I suffered trauma, next how to cope with the immediate acute manifestations, then how to recognize it in my body, and then to put all those pieces together. So it's really a journey, and I'm pretty sure I'm not done learning yet. So that's just the experience for me as a human. But Jen, I'm sure you can speak to the science behind why all that happens.
I think that with trauma in particular, right, it's such a shock to our systems. And when it happens at a young age, things like that get buried. And if we don't have the tools or the means or resources to be able to deal with it at that time, you start to build like a protective layer over that. I always kind of visualize an onion, right? But you have the core and all the pieces kind of build up around it. And those pieces aren't always good pieces that bury over the top of it, right? It can be, like you said, medical issues, GI issues, or it could be anxiety, or it can be depression, or it can be OCD issues. There's so many, all these layers. So, when we look at a lot of different diagnoses, many of them are comorbid, right? With one comes another. So when you realize that you have one of these layers that you're struggling with and you want to work towards, once you make progress with that, you peel that back. Okay, I've dealt with my anxiety, but why am I still feeling this way? Right? Well, because there's another layer that you have to dig down to get to the core. So all of these resources can help you do that, can help you peel through those layers to get to the core of the onion to see really what that issue is. I mean, I've worked with so many people who, their presenting issue is different than what their core issue is. And they may not even know what that core issue is until you peel away some of those other layers. People use substances to self-medicate for some of the core issue also. So you could reach sobriety and then still be struggling and wonder why. I thought my issue really was with needing to find sobriety. And then they see that they've peeled that away and there's this other issue now to deal with of anxiety or depression or trauma. So that's why we need a whole group of resources to help us, and why we need to focus so much on what we can find that works for us. I know the presenter earlier said that the same thing doesn't always work for the same person. And that's so true, but you should continue to try to look for what does work for you. And you don't know until you try. And sometimes it's like asparagus, right? You don't always like it the first time you try it. But after you've had asparagus cooked different ways and multiple times, then your palate starts to enjoy it. I didn't try asparagus until I was 32. I'm 41 now. I love asparagus. It's one of my most favorites, right? So you have to try, you have to dig, you have to educate yourself. There's so many resources that are out there. I could go on forever, and I know it's already 10:30. But if you're looking to figure out what are those warning signs that I should be cognizant of that could lead me down a negative path, check out some of the websites and virtual information that's out there. AFSP.org, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, they have a ton of stuff. For veteran-specific things, there's a link right now specifically for Suicide Prevention Month for September. It's BeThereForVeterans.com. It'll take you to the Veterans Crisis Line page. Even if you're not a veteran, maybe you know a veteran, but some of the information is workable for anyone, right? Whether you're a veteran or not. Warning signs are warning signs. Trauma can be trauma. So just research and know what's out there, know what's available. Apply it in your own life and share it in those people who are in your life also.
Yeah, you said find something that works for you. And Karen, I know, since I already disclosed my own struggle and learning process, you taught me a SOAS release that you learned. So do you want to just speak real quick about that?
Sure. I like to take different classes, trainings, and I took the SOAS release. So that focused on releasing. We hold a lot of trauma in this area. So this whole class is about the postures are on releasing the SOAS, and there's other classes too. I've had training in trauma, yoga for trauma, yoga for PTSD, and yoga for recovery. And so really with all of those trainings, I think they all get incorporated into my class. And there are just little things that, subtle things that make a difference for each of those categories. But basically, it's really being present, letting go of any judgment, competition, or expectations we have of ourselves for this hour that we do our practice, and just accepting where we're at too. So.
I love that. I think it's so cool and I didn't even know that those, other yogas kind of existed, or those other practices existed that were maybe geared more towards trauma or PTSD. So I think it's wonderful to see the recovery world in general, right? Just really grow and expand and just do our best to reach every nook and cranny of, different aspects that people really struggle with. And I think the more we grow those supports and those resources, the better equipped we can be to really help those that are struggling. And so, yeah, it's really cool to hear about some different yoga practices as well. I mean, I always see the ones that are like yoga with goats, and that sounds pretty cool. I feel like that would be very healing. So, but yeah, in all seriousness, it really is amazing to see so many different resources and, supports, that just continue to grow because, like we mentioned, especially during this time, these past, I don't know, 5-6 months, however long this has been going on, we see the intensity of the struggle of people just really growing. And, so I think this is amazing. And I just really want to thank everybody for joining us today. All of this information has been so helpful and so wonderful. And I hope it was helpful for our viewers as well. We've got a few people that are joining us now, but if you happen to join in late, or if you happen to not see this at all, don't worry, the video does save to Rock Recovery's Facebook page. We'll be sharing it a little bit. And so, yeah, you'll be able to go back and watch that. But, thank you, ladies, for bringing on your resources and, just really helping to educate and support everybody. And Rock Recovery will be continuing to do a few more of these videos as we kind of head into September, just talking about suicide awareness and prevention. And we just really want to let people know that it's okay to talk about these things and we need to talk about these things. And so if you're struggling, if you're watching this right now, or if you know somebody who's struggling, please share it with them. And I guess I'm just curious what our guests really want to leave people with. But my encouragement is always for people to please just reach out and please just talk to somebody. But yeah, I just wanted to give everybody else just a quick opportunity to wrap things up.
Sure, thank you. We have a few standard sayings that we use here at the VA. One of them is #BeThere, right? And that's our motto this month with suicide prevention, with the link I shared earlier, Be There for Veterans, right? And another one is the power of one, right? You can be the power of one. And in the time that I've spent here in this position, those two statements are just so true, just being there for someone. You don't even have to spend the entire time talking, right? Just listen, just sitting with someone that's struggling if you're close with them and you can, right? The power that one person holds to be able to assist another person is so big. It's just amazing. And there's people here for you, right? Even through this pandemic, if you can't be with a group you're normally used to being with, you can set up things like this through all of the technology we have to be able to have groups virtually. Here at VA, we're starting to do that, have virtual groups, have phone groups, where people can come and still be with one another and talk with one another. There's still ways to connect. So if you're feeling isolative or hopeless, find out how to connect, reach out to someone, go on some of these websites. They'll give you ideas of what you can do, of what groups are available in your area, who's still meeting. There's people that want to help and be assistive. If you don't know what those resources are, you can call the crisis line, right? If you're a veteran, call the crisis line and press 1. You're going to get people who are trained and knowledgeable of what's still available in your area that can help you get through whatever pain it is that you're feeling at that time that you're struggling with. So give us a try, call us, connect with us, check out resources. There's so much available right now.
I would say check out also the resources for yoga online on YouTube. Also, Recovery has my yoga classes that I've done. So connect with try a yoga class. I mean, you can sit and listen to it. You don't even have to do it. Just give it a try. See how that works out.
Yeah, and Chelsea mentioned our upcoming videos. I also want to plug a past video. So Yana did one on suicide prevention and interventions and had AFSP there, which Jen mentioned. We also have 46 clients in some other organizations. And don't forget, Rock Recovery's doing outdoor classes. We're posting our September calendar today. So that's 6 days a week you can be outside moving your body to help your mind and connecting with other people. You know, forget about the science, just manifesting a lot of the things we heard about today.
And I believe AFSP on their website is also promoting all of the local county events that are happening in honor of suicide awareness and prevention and those that we lost. Here in Bath, and Recovery's partnered with me, as well as Care First and AFSP, the vet centers. Steuben County Mental Health has partnered to do our 20 for 20 walk throughout the month of September. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the photos and videos that Recovery is going to bring, right, that we can post on our Facebook page. And if you're interested in participating, you certainly can email me at jennifer.haggerty@va.gov. We have some extra event pins and some extra swag that I can send out to some people. We're asking that you walk at least 20 miles in the month of September, or you can run, or choose 20 days to walk out of the month. And we have a pin to wear so that you can let people know what you're walking for and what you're trying to raise awareness for. And then I know my partners in Rochester, they're partaking in a dice run, right? A motorcycle ride run. So there's lots of different things out there that are happening for Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all of those amazing resources. And yes, so please check out the website so you can see the events that are going on. I know a few of us at Rock Recovery are going to be doing the 20 for 20 walking in September. So yeah, we're excited to be a part of that. And again, really just, you know, our main goal is to really, you know, obviously be there to support individuals as well too, but really create awareness and just show people that there are resources. There is help. There's a lot of it, you know, Rochester and, you know, even in other areas too. There's just so much support and so many organizations. It's amazing to see. So thank you all so much for joining us today, Karen and Jen, and Christina had to leave us early, but, you know, thank you to her as well for taking the time to hang out with us this morning and, you know, just be here to have a great conversation. So thank you all so much. So yeah, we're here for you guys.
Thank you.
And tune into our other videos. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a happy Friday.
Bye.